Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the MSc podcast. Today, we are joined with Michael, who is a current MSc in International Business with SEMS student. He just completed his first term, so we're going to be talking all things first semester, his IGL, as well as his 2 SEMS exchanges that are upcoming. Really excited for you guys to hear this one. Hi, Michael. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Okay, well, I feel like we have so much to catch up on, talk about, and delve into. But before we do that, I actually kind of want to talk about you. Before joining the MSc program, let's talk a little bit about your academic background, professional background, what made you want to pursue the MSc. Give me the whole rundown on Michael.
Yeah, so I actually did my undergrad at Western University over on the main campus. I started in business studies, but I found it wasn't quite for me.
Okay.
And I found my interest more within law and international law. So I pursued a Spanish languages and cultures degree at Western. And at the meantime, I was engaging with the Western Pre-Law Society and other clubs that engaged in kind of what it means to be a lawyer in the undergraduate setting. Throughout all of that, though, I still really enjoyed working with teams, with different people, and still different clubs and still engaging with business.
Okay. I do remember your application. I remember thinking, was interested in law school. This is a different take. You know, we don't typically get students who are interested in going into law and then suddenly switch into MSc. So I thought your application was really interesting. Was there something specific that maybe kind of pushed you towards the MSc? Did you see something? Did you hear about it? What made you kind of start researching a little bit more into the program?
Yeah, so when we first met at that postgraduate fair, I think the conversation that you and I struck really hit a chord regarding like international work and international business. And as much as I love the concept of international law, I found that I really enjoyed the cross-functional, cross-cultural aspect of working across different communities and countries too. And I found that what I was interested in would be more transferable, funnily enough, back into a business setting, consulting, and what I've really found throughout my first term in the MSc program, project management and client relations. Okay.
Did you find that there was any overlap? This is out of pure curiosity from, the law classes that you took to MSc. Do you see any sort of overlap in maybe the theory or the structure of the curriculum? Is there anything that's similar at all? Or is it completely different?
The one aspect that I found that really does overlap is frameworks. It's a lot of what I've seen kind of in law. We always talk about, well, here's this one case 100 or so years back, created a framework and how that's evolved. But with business, and especially in the context of international business, there's a lot of frameworks for identifying cross-cultural like overlaps or gaps. And then especially with one class I took, internationalization, different frameworks on how businesses should approach whether they should internationalize, whether they have strategic advantages. And so I found that in that sense, I'm analytical. So I like a framework. I like saying, if this happens, then how should we approach it? Or if this doesn't fulfill a certain criteria, how should we take it from there? So that's one thing that I've really enjoyed about both, but I've been loving it at the MSc.
Very cool. Okay, so we just wrapped up first term. I think you're just about to finish your final exams or you've just finished them. Talk to me about, January till now. What has happened? What have been some highlights, maybe some challenges that you've experienced in the last 5 months since the program started?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge are the wake-ups for me. I'm very much a night owl, and I know that a lot of our classes start at 8 a.m., but I think getting over that challenge was just adjusting my schedule and adapting. And the moment I did that after the first couple of weeks, it was great. The professors are amazing. The case method at Ivey has been phenomenal. I've really enjoyed learning like that. I think coming from an undergraduate degree where it was very theory and lecture-based and still a lot of application to going into learning through cases, and that differentiation has been beneficial coming from that undergrad. So having that first experience and coming and doing case method like that, it's been a lot of fun. Our Ivey Essential courses kind of gave me a really strong toolkit, both in qualitative and quantitative analysis, and specifically for the IB, our courses like cross-cultural management and internationalization have given me like a very nice perspective on how to think like internationally.
Yeah. You kind of touched on it briefly about the case method. So this was, I'm assuming, new to you. Maybe not, because you did a couple business courses in your undergrad, but was there a large learning curve for you going into the case method versus coming from something that was a bit more seminar style and lecture style?
I want to say yes, though in our orientation week, we got a very, very good rundown on what to expect coming into it, the expectations on how to prepare for a case, how much you should prepare. And I think that rundown really helped in showing me when I come to class, here's my case, here's the understanding I should come with, here's my solutions and my implications. And from there, having an engaging discussion in class and seeing it flow through entirely in that hour and a half or 3-hour class session. And then from there, also seeing what my peers have to say. And sometimes I come into a case, I know exactly what I'm saying, and I realize, oh no, I might have missed this implication or this certain exhibit. and I still get to expand my knowledge and see what other people had to say. And we have a large class, but still not too big. I think we're a cohort of around 70 students.
Yep.
So we're still able to have very engaging discussions pretty much every day of the week.
Did you find, that it was easier to bounce ideas off of people versus something that's maybe more like a science background, which is really individualistic, where you're kind of just like fighting for yourself? It's nice having that support from other people. If maybe you didn't understand a certain concept in the case, that you can, lean on some of your peers or colleagues to be able to pick up on those.
Yeah, very, very much so. I would say we have learning teams in the MSc program. So they're self-set up by the faculty, and we were a team of 6 people.
Okay.
And so we'd work together on cases. The professors also integrate certain assignments into each case. So usually the ones that have a bit of a steeper learning curve, they get us together, we come up with a solution. So I get to bounce my ideas off everyone. And at the same time, one aspect I really like about what the professors will do is you may bring up a point and someone else will bring up a point, and they either agree with each other or they conflict, and they'll have you run a discussion back and forth to support that argument or try and learn. So in that regard, I'm able to have that discussion live and expand my learning there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It kind of puts you outside of your comfort zone, right, a little bit, especially if once you start getting into the workforce, you're going to have people who maybe disagree with your point of view, and being able to handle that, being able to back up what your viewpoint is on a certain subject, it teaches you those skills that you don't really get through theory or through a textbook. You kind of just have to practice doing. So I appreciate that perspective. You participated in a learning experience in Cuba and Holguin.
I did, yeah.
And you were teaching English to some primary school students. How do you think that really influenced your approach to international business? What were some things, some key takeaways from that experience that you think has helped you now in the international business program?
Yeah, so for me, that was in my undergrad. And funnily enough, we were the first cohort to go back after COVID. So it was a nice, fresh experience starting my undergrad a lot online to being able to engage fully in another country. It really kind of showed me how to work internationally, the differences between cultures. And the way that we, especially at Western and a higher education institution, can bring our skills and knowledge to another part of the world and help empower them. And so with teaching like younger children English, we got to create our own activities. And so for us, we brought in and donated a bunch of coloring pencils, and we let them choose what they wanted to draw and got to teach them what they were drawing in English, ways they could say it in a sentence. So in that regard, they can all kind of engage with their own classmates after we leave and still be able to hold on to what we taught them. But also we got to engage with other students of our own age in Cuba in kind of our partner university for the week. And so that was very fun to see kind of the dynamic between both of us. And it really taught me after that experience that I had that subtle interest in international work, but very much so in law, that international and that cross-cultural aspect is what I really want to focus on in my career.
That's so cool. That's such a unique and once in a lifetime opportunity that I can't imagine will obviously stay with you for the rest of your life. So let's talk now. We finished your first term. We talked a little bit about how that was for you. You're going to start your IGL in a little bit, which I'm so excited for you. Can you talk a bit about what you're most excited for, where you're going, what projects you're working on? I'm sure the listeners would love to know that. Yeah,
so I'm going to Peru in the middle of May for 8 weeks, and we're working with a company there. They do home improvement, and so we're helping them with some analytical detailing of kind of the profits and projections on how they're doing and the success of certain product lines. And what's really engaging for that is I don't have the most quantitative experience. I come from an arts background, and a lot of my education, other than high school in business, has come from this program. So it's really fun to be able to learn what I have over the last 3-4 months and get to directly apply them in another country in a very foreign setting. And that's what I've really appreciated about the MSc degree, is that deep dive. You get to learn a bit, you get to apply yourself in the case method. That's still a very big deep dive for me. And then they drop you right in. And so it's going to be a nice shock, but I'm very excited. But I also think it'll be beneficial for me to gain more quantitative experience kind of in that revenue projections, working with models. And that's something I don't have the most experience in, but I'm confident with what I've learned these last few months to be able to apply it for a real client with real implications. Yeah, that's kind of the biggest selling point for MSc is that you get to do hands-on learning. I'm a big advocate for learning through doing instead of just through theory. I think that's the best way. Even making mistakes, that's how you learn and that's how you develop as an individual. So I think IGL is really going to put you outside of your comfort zone a little bit. It might push you to kind of try different things, different approaches, but inevitably it will really shape you and kind of prepare you for the next step in your career.
Was there any insights into that networking opportunities, throughout the semester? I think we've had a couple since the beginning of January, or collaborative projects that you've been involved in that have really had an impact on you?
Definitely, yeah. So in our program, we have dedicated career management classes with the career management team at Ivey, and those have been phenomenal. We've been able to learn kind of from the ground up. So no matter what background you come from or what experience you have in networking, everything's shaped from the ground up on how to network, how to build your network, how to engage with professionals, reach out. Coffee chats have been a very, very beneficial resource for me these last few months. And so in that regard, I've been able to attend a consulting club cafe that we had. So they brought in professionals and we got to network with them and build connections through that virtual event. And also most recently where we met up last was the MSc Get Connected event in downtown Toronto. And that was an amazing capstone to the semester.
Yeah.
So quite a phenomenal amount of MSc alum returned back for kind of this, kind of thinking like old, new kind of aspect of alumni to current students to learn about what opportunities are available, how to grow your skills and expertise. And I learned a lot about both client relations, project management, a lot of what I was interested in from the professionals who have gone through what I have.
I'm so happy that you're talking about Get Connected, because I was going to talk about that, because I just recently saw you from that and I wanted to get your takeaways. And so it seems that it was a really positive experience, which I'm happy to hear. Was there anything that maybe stood out to you from that day that you were like, oh, I definitely want to revisit that, or I can't wait to take that into my IGL or into my SEMS placements?
There was one conversation I had, and it was really about how to engage with clients. And one thing I really pulled away from was when you think about how consulting works, it's someone who isn't in your company coming in. And the analogy that my colleague who brought that up said, it's as if I came into your house today and said, you need to clean up your house. It doesn't look good. You wouldn't really take that well if someone you have no familiarity with comes and starts criticizing what you do.
Sure.
But the truth is it's an outside perspective in a supportive and respectful manner to help empower you and grow, or whatever the situation or problem you're incurring is. And so a lot about how to communicate with clients, showing respect, adapting the conversational styles. And so that's something I'm really looking forward to applying in my IGL.
Yeah, I wouldn't want you coming into my house and telling me to clean it. So I appreciate that analogy. And I'm sure a lot of consultants probably feel the same way. So I did mention a little bit about SEMS. I want you to tell me about your SEMS exchanges. I'm so excited that you get to participate in that. For those who are listening who don't know about SEMS, it is a global partnership of 34 of the top business schools across the globe. And they allow students to do exchanges, 1 or 2, at one of the partner schools, and get that international exposure, again, hands-on. So what are your 2 SEMS exchanges where you're going to be attending in the next couple months?
Yeah, so I am going to the Erasmus University in Rotterdam, Netherlands this fall, starting in late August. And in January or February of 2026, I'll be in Milan, Italy at the University of Bocconi, which funnily enough takes place at the same time as the Olympics.
No way.
Yeah.
That's pretty wicked. Okay, well, you'll have to definitely score some tickets and go see some events.
100%.
What are you looking forward to most in the Netherlands and then in Milan?
I think for me, it's really the international exposure. I thought about where would I want to go? What do I want to see? I've never been to Europe before, so that's something for me.
Oh my gosh, you'll have so much fun.
To travel, yeah. But really seeing what it is to work internationally. And the beauty about SEMS is it's an amazing network. Similar to Ivey, it's a network of all of these students from, I believe we're at 33 universities across the world. Yep. And how we all interact, how we can learn from each other. I've attended a few events too, both remote and online, to engage with both current SEMS and SEMS alumni. But I've learned a lot about the international aspect of how work works on an international basis. But yeah, very much looking forward to seeing what a potential career might even look like abroad, rather than coming into this degree. I thought, I might go to Toronto. Yeah, going to be a lawyer, might work internationally too. Yeah. Maybe I check out Bay Street, see what's available there, to now what's available across the world.
It opens up so many more doors for you that you didn't even, like, sometimes when I talk to some of the SEMS alumni, I'm like, I didn't even know that was a job. I didn't even know that's something you could pursue. And so it's so many great opportunities that come from that program. It's an additional network that you get on top of Ivey's alumni network, which is already so strong. So yeah, I can't vouch more for SEMS. I think it's such a fantastic program. Okay, so we've kind of talked about, your beginning and how you started applying for MSc, and then we talked a little bit about Peru and what you're looking forward to, and then SEMS. I wanted to ask, is there any, perspective or advice you can give to prospective students who are interested in applying to the MSc program? Maybe someone who does come from a maybe non-traditional background like law or arts or anything of the sort, and they're like, I don't know if the MSc program is right for me. What advice would you give them?
I think for people who know they're interested, it's about being a self-starter and being curious. I think that aspect for myself when I was an undergrad trying to see what I was interested in. I would take every opportunity I could. And one caveat I'll put to that is always know your time management, know how much you can handle, because it can pile up quite quickly. But always being curious and seeing what might interest you and how you can engage those interests will really help open all the doors you could imagine. I think the biggest step people take are the first step. But for those who aren't quite sure, reaching out. Like coffee chats, I've really learned this semester at Ivey are pivotal. I've learned so much about what career progression looks like, what I might be interested in, what I thought I was interested in. And as I learned more, I realized it might not be quite for me, but it's a perfect fit for other people.
Yeah.
And in that aspect, always just reach out. If you've seen someone who's doing what you're interested in, even if it doesn't follow the path that you thought, you can always reach out, see what their thoughts were on the matter and kind of how that progression worked for them and what they found was beneficial.
I think something to that is talking to current students in the program. I can obviously talk about MSc till I'm blue in the face, but you and other students have actually lived through this experience. You've lived through the admissions process. You've lived through the first term, full year alumni who have lived through the entire program. They're going to be the best people to talk to when you're curious about what this is going to do and what kind of impact it's going to have on your long-term career. So I would suggest that to anyone that is listening, that I think that's a really great tool and resource to use, is to lean on people like you and other students in the MSc program to get your 2 cents on what that process has been like. What advice would you offer to maybe fourth year Michael? He's like lost. He doesn't really know what he wants to do. He's thinking about law school, but then he sees the MSc program. What advice would you give to him to prepare him better for the MSc program?
So coming into it, I would say I always thought, how do I need to prepare? There's so much business to it. But what I heard from every professor kind of at the start of every class, at the start of the semester, was you're here to learn. You're here to build that foundation from the ground up. So I think it's coming with an open mind, being very much able to adapt. I think I had a bit of a slower start because I was such a night owl. And I thought, I can take 8 a.m. classes 4 days a week perfectly fine. And that first week was much harder than I like to admit.
It
does humble you. Yeah. But I would say the adaptability is definitely something. You're used to one aspect of education, at least for fourth year Michael, lecture style, having some electives, but coming into this program, everything's pre-set out, but it's perfectly aligned to teach you what you need to know to have that toolkit to prepare you for the IGL. And while I may not be returning to Ivey for my next terms, very much preparing me for what those graduate studies will look like at schools abroad, or for students who are staying at Ivey, the future courses that take place there.
Yeah.
But I think it's adaptability, still being curious. I think you can always be more curious and more outgoing to see what's available, and proper time management.
It's always useful to manage your time well. And that's a skill that comes with time. I don't think everybody just gets that right off the gate. You kind of have to figure out what works for you. But something someone told me a long time ago that's always stuck with me in my career is you are always meant to be exactly where you are. Like when students kind of have this imposter syndrome of like, oh my gosh, I'm at Ivey. Like you've gone through the admissions process. It doesn't really feel real until you're sitting there in your first day in the classroom and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm with my entire cohort. You are meant to be exactly where you are. Like this is, you worked really hard to get to this spot. You earned the right to the seat that is in the MSc program. And often students just forget that and they get sort of worked up and, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm here and I'm doing this. But, I think that does show a testament to the types of students that come into the MSc program, especially IB, when they're going abroad and putting themselves in these really out of their comfort zone type of experiences. It's just reminding yourself that I worked hard to get here. I'm worthy of this seat. And that I'm going to do great things with this MSc degree. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I'm so excited for you, for your IGL and for your SEMS placements. I know you're going to rock them and you'll have to come back and tell me everything about them because I want to know all about Peru and the other 2 places. But I appreciate you so much for coming and talking to me. If you have questions for Michael, I'm sure he'll be happy to answer them on LinkedIn and to connect with you. But we'll see you again in the next episode.
Of course, yeah. Very happy to come back.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. If you have questions about the admissions process or your application, you feel free to email us at msc@ivey.ca. And you can look at our website for our next application deadlines as well. Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next episode.